systems and all those kind of internal processes. And once again, with having people in the group, that what I call high attention to detail closer finishes, things that I'm not, but having good people in the business that can do that, you can accomplish number 2 relatively easily as well. Number 3, and this is the biggest challenge, is how do you integrate people? This is one of the biggest challenges, I think, in any type of organisation. So what we do when we get in there from an M&A perspective, we actually review and ask the question on who are the key people within the company. And we identify who the key people are, and as part of our sale agreement, we make sure that there's a condition precedent, i.e. these people need to sign a new employment contract with us in order to come across. And what we also try to do was to give them all some shares and options, so that way actually they own a percentage of the company as well. In terms of the targets people, so when we go and actually make an acquisition, the number one question that everyone always has, which is a very fair and reasonable question, is, do I still have a job? Do I still have a job? And and it always comes back to self. And so we would be very upfront with relation to these individuals to say, yeah, you guys have got a job, full-time contract. No, there's another group of you. You guys have got a 3-month contract, and you say with the 3 months we'll pay you a bonus in the end. And then these are a bunch of the other people that we just need to let go immediately, because we don't need as many people in accounts and finance, etc., etc. And one thing that was extremely important when having to make redundancies, particularly through all the acquisitions that we made, was looking after the people. We would always pay over the odds in relation to redundancy fees and extra weeks and in some cases extra months. And it wasn't because we sort of wanted to pay extra money. It wasn't actually, it had nothing to do with money. Offering outplacement services to other people, but what it wasn't about the people that were leaving. It was about the people that were still staying in the company. Because the way that we treat people who are exiting the company is a reflection of how we treat the people within the company. So that sets the tone for the integration of the acquisitions. And things that we would do at Destra, like every week we would have fresh fruit delivered to our offices. We would have quarterly massages if we sort of met our budgets, etc., etc. I'll give you 2 quick case studies. ADM was our first acquisition. It was September, October 2000. So it was only about 4 months into listing. This was a complete balls up. It was the first, and we made a whole bunch of mistakes. So some of the mistakes that we made: 1, we paid all cash. We didn't lock in the founder. The founder left after a very short period of time, and because we didn't have the right people in the company, we made incorrect product decisions. So that's just an example. And so one of the key learnings coming out of this is that you pay a percentage of cash, but you also have a percentage as an earn-out. So if they stay there for a period of time, they then get this other bonus, just to keep people really focused. So that was one of the mistakes. And also, we actually try to do everything in-house. And what I learned post this acquisition was bring in the experts. It's going to cost you a bit of money. And for the last X number of acquisitions, we've actually used the guys at PwC, who I know are presenting tomorrow sometime. And sometimes it actually pays to bring in the experts. I mean, you may say, well, geez, I really want to pay this amount. But the question is, can you afford not to? Secondly, in relation to another case study, B&M, Brand New Media, was one of the best acquisitions we made. We paid 5.4 times earnings. It was a 2-year earn-out. There was a combination of cash and scrip. It kept the founders, and basically every single person in the company got shares, and this business just performed. And it's still performing today, and it's actually still one of the most important parts of the Destra business. So the way that one structures the deals is pivotal to the ultimate success. Timing. We've got a bunch of stuff right, and we've got a bunch of stuff completely wrong. And I've spoken about the fact that we listed the company and just literally got in there by 8 hours. There was a couple other occasions that timing sort of wasn't on our side. And I always say, only the paranoid survive, as the CEO Intel used to say. And these days I'm super, super paranoid about everything. And we'll just go through this and we'll get a couple of questions. And just to give you another two examples, we launched a share purchase plan to raise some capital in 2003. And about a week later, the US invaded Iraq. And I can tell you it wasn't a particularly good time to try and raise money. And just late last year, we tried to raise $20 million to help fund an acquisition of Beyond, which was effectively an acquisition that was almost double the size of us that we were trying to take over. We'd gone and conducted a roadshow. We had about $18 to $19 million of those monies committed within that week of those 30 institutions that we saw. We put the company into a trading halt Monday, December the 17th, and you may remember December the 17th, because I do very clearly. The market plunged 4.5%. Centric came out with their news that they forgot to tell the market that they had billions of dollars of debt on their balance sheet, and then basically the doors were just completely shut. So two examples of where timing sometimes doesn't necessarily work in your favour. And one of the bits of advice that I give to people when looking to raise capital is always raise more money than what you think you need, because it's going to take, everything always takes twice, 3 times as long and costs 3 to 4 times as much. So whenever I have a look at someone, because I see a lot of business plans and I basically see a bunch of business plans and you see revenue going from $500,000, the next year goes to 5 million, then the year after that goes to 30 million, and the profit goes from $500,000 to 10 million to 50 million. And I look at it and say, well, I don't think that kind of works. Just multiply the costs by 3 or 4 and divide the revenue that you think you're going to do by 3 or 4 and tell me what the bottom line is. And usually the results are actually quite different. So that's a couple of the sort of operational issues, if I can get them out of the way and just come back and focus on some of the other stuff. Now, as some of you may know, I'm no longer at Destra. And I had 3 events that occurred over the last 3 or 4 months that has really kind of, I won't say changed my perception, but really provided deep, deep learning. First was Opus Prime. Opus Prime was a broker. A lot of small cap directors had their shares with Opus. And fortunately, unfortunately, and actually I think everything happens for a reason, so fortunately, I lost pretty much every single bit of equity I had in the company that I've been working with for the last 15 years. And when this occurred, I went into, my first reaction was anger. I was angry at the guys at Opus Prime, and if you don't sort of know the background of the history, effectively, it's like allegedly, they were moving money, bits of money around that weren't, that wasn't their money, and they were using other people's money to buy things that they shouldn't be buying, like fancy cars and boats and those kind of things. But this will all come out in the wash sometime, and hopefully someone goes to jail. But anyway. Feel better now. And after I stopped being angry at the guys at Opus Prime, I started getting really angry at myself for putting myself in that position. For effectively putting everything that I pretty much worked on and built into Destra. Because this is, I guess, one of the nuances and one of the learnings